Welcome back to the MOOC course on Corporate Social Responsibility. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course, and we are beginning the 8th and final module of the course today. In this lecture we are going to talk about the miscellaneous items that we have missed. So we'll discuss how governments have responded to corporate social responsibility. We will talk about corporate social irresponsibility. We will talk about the future of CSR, new ideas that are coming up in order to help with the socially responsible efforts of organizations, and we will wind up with a wrap up of the entire course, and I will take you through the major points that we have discussed in the course in the very last session. So welcome, and I hope you are enjoying the course. This module is going to be very exciting because I have a number of very interesting ideas to share with you. But in this particular lecture we are going to talk about CSR public policies in different relational perspectives, lessons from Europe. That is the title I have, the subtitle that I have given. This is from a paper by Albareda, Lozano and Isa, and this was published in 2007. A lot has happened since then, but this was one of the most comprehensive takes, one of the most comprehensive summaries that I have found of the efforts of any government or of governments helping or assisting with CSR efforts. So even though this paper talks exclusively about Europe, I felt that the lessons could be drawn from it for functioning of or for drawing parity between what other governments in other parts of the world are doing. So let's see what we have here for you. Okay. Before we begin with the examples, I would like to show you how different actors in corporate social responsibility act through government policies. So the different actors as per the authors are CSR in governments alone, that relates to CSR public policies developed by governments to improve their own social responsibility. They try and lead by example. So one feels that if the government is doing something, then the organizations can also adopt similar methods. The second actor here is CSR in government business relationships. So you have CSR public policies that are designed to improve business CSR practices. So the policies are designed by the government, but the businesses adopt them, and then there are suggestions and businesses adopt them and their practices improve. Then the third actor here is CSR in government society relationships. So these refer to CSR public policies designed to improve civil society stakeholder awareness. So government and the civil society then become partners. They work together for improvement of the environment. And the last one here is relational CSR. This refers to CSR public policies designed to improve collaboration between governments, business and civil society stakeholders. And this is again, like everything else in this course, this is the last stage where everything is integrated. So keeping these in mind, the authors of this paper had designed a table. I have just condensed the table and I have brought it for you here just to show you how different. It's not possible to reproduce the whole table here, so I've just taken the information verbatim from that table and tried to show it to you here. Okay, in this format. So CSR in government, the internal policies, the policy would be leadership by example, and under this you could have action plans for government offices, you could have work-life balance policies, you could have equal opportunities, you could have ethical investment, anti-fraud and corruption policies, and accreditation for good employer practices. Now again, before I proceed, I must tell you that all of these have been evaluated and assessed by these authors, and the authors have actually gone to different gone through the policies of different governments within the European continent, and they have found that they have categorized the policies into these categories. So there are examples of these. Then the next policy could be creation of internal departments at the internal policy level in the government. They could create knowledge centers, or creation of monitoring organizations and control systems could be another example. Then coordinating government bodies could be a policy under which you could have the CSR minister who could be responsible for coordinating activities. You could have cross government CSR programs. Now please remember that this is with reference to Europe, which has an international aspect, but this could be applied to maybe the ASEAN countries or the SAARC countries, where countries are already collaborating on different issues, and they then they also incorporate CSR as one of their collaborative commitments. Okay, then CSR feasibility studies for new legislation could be another one. So you do feasibility studies, and then you say, okay, because this is possible, let us put this in practice through legislation. Then you could, for capacity building, you could have funding for research and innovation programs. You could have financial assistance for companies implementing corporate responsibility programs. You could have publication of guidelines and good practice documents, which is something that we already have. So India has that. Okay. Then we have, with reference to public expenditure, you could have social and environmental criteria in supplier policies, ethical purchasing and outsourcing, CSR policies for public contracts. As far as public campaigns are concerned, you could have promotion of positive impacts of CSR in business and society. You could have surveys on public opinion. You could have CSR awards, communication campaigns, and media influence. Then for international events, with reference to international events, you could have international conferences on CSR. You could have international level conventions. Here again, in the paper there was a reference to programs within the European Union. So I have put this in square brackets just to indicate that this is a substitute that I'm using as far as the suggestions in that paper are concerned, just to make it more open and more applicable to the audience for this class. Then transferring international debate to local contexts. There could be agreement between national and local governments. There could be seminars on geographic or thematic areas. There could be consideration of CSR regional and social policies. So I can share something with you here as far as the seminars on geographic or thematic areas is concerned. Especially for this, various natural environment places have something like this going on. We visited the Andaman and Nicobar Islands many years ago, and I'm talking as far back as I think this was the January of 1990. January of 1990. So the local guest house that was there, I'm sure things have changed quite a bit, but the local guest house there ran a 1-hour movie at that point of time that was sponsored by probably the Department of Forests and maybe tribal welfare also, and it was a very well made movie that introduced the visitors. This was in Port Blair in the Andaman Islands, on the Great Andaman Island, and this film, a documentary, introduced visitors to the flora and fauna and to the environmental heritage of that area. And there was also a section on what one must not do. So they talked about different tribes, and there was also a section on what visitors were not permitted to do. Even there was no system of issuing permits at that time, so they said tribals live there. If you see a tribal, please don't interact with them, please don't talk to them, let them do their own thing. So I was a child then, but I'm just talking about how different governments in different capacities are already doing this. Now this is something that used to happen on a daily basis. There was this 1-hour movie in the guest house at that time. I'm not sure what they do now. I'm sure there are many more programs now running now, but so and this is a common practice in the foreign countries. Within India also, many tourist homes, or many forest rest houses are taking these initiatives to make people aware of what they are in for, especially in these lesser known areas or lesser ventured into areas. Okay. And then international instruments and agreements. You could have promotion of global regulatory frameworks. You could have development of international certification systems. You could have creation of evaluation and certification bodies. As far as foreign trade policy and international development is concerned, CSR could be integrated into foreign affairs policies for international markets and international development, and promotion of good CSR practice in overseas operations, which would include human rights, labor standards, anti-corruption, environment, etc. You could link CSR to foreign investment policy and international relations. Okay, as far as the soft policies are concerned, you could raise awareness. You could identify and promote companies leading in CSR. You could promote corporate responsibility through websites, publications, and specialist journals. Again, this is the government promoting, or government supporting, or government helping, or government encouraging the private organizations who are actually doing something for the society. So you could offer CR supports, corporate responsibility services and support to corporate responsibility initiatives in companies or partnerships, either in cash or in kind, or through the information they receive. Then you could undertake surveys and communication campaigns. Okay. Again, as far as voluntary activities that include facilitating and promoting are concerned, the government could promote the uptake of corporate responsibility policies, publication of corporate responsibility reports. It could encourage sharing and promotion of good practice. It could promote social responsibility initiatives, environmental standards, fair trade, sustainable consumption, work-life balance, equal opportunities, employee volunteering, employee help with employee conditions, working conditions, and it could help with lifelong learning. Now, there could be promotion of business networks, promotion of public-private partnerships or public-private civil society partnerships that are working in the area of CSR. Okay, or that are active with their CSR efforts. Then as far as capacity building is concerned, you could finance research and evaluation programs. The governments could support business, university research programs that could result in the development of instruments, identification of good practices, and the generation of comparative studies to see who was doing what. Guidelines could be developed and technical assistance could be provided to organizations that are active, that are doing well as far as their commitment to the society is concerned. Then incentives could be given for sustainability reports. As far as stakeholders are concerned, the government could run evaluation and communication programs on the impact of corporate responsibility programs on stakeholders. There could be market mechanisms to favor corporate responsibility. So there could be price policies, competition policies, investment principles. Now again, one such thing that has happened in India very, very recently is the reduction in the price of essential medicines after the implementation of the goods and services tax. Just a few days back, I went to the market to buy antibiotics for some tooth infection, and I was surprised to see, and I said, okay, how much is this for? And the shopkeeper said, okay, well, a pack of a strip of 10 tablets antibiotics costs ₹35. I was shocked. I said, are you sure it's from a reputed company? And I looked, and yes, it was a reputed pharmaceutical company. And he said, madam, after the GST, the prices of a lot of almost 700 items as far as the pharmaceutical industry is concerned have gone down, which means there's a reduction in the prices of antibiotics, which is an essential thing. So I think this is one of the very recent examples in that shows how the government's efforts have contributed to helping the status of living of common people. I mean, amazing. I was really surprised. I said, yes, now this very essential medicine, a broad spectrum antibiotic, is now going to be affordable for people who need it, but maybe you were not able to purchase it earlier. So this is, very tiny personal experience that I'm sharing with you, and the cost had come down by almost 60%. So this was really great. I said, yes, now at least people can buy it, they can think of buying it, because when you go and buy antibiotics from the market, I mean, earlier the tablets could be, they're very, very expensive as compared to the rest of the medicines. So we are talking about price policies. Then there is, there's here, price policies. Okay, so competition policies and investment principles. So these are market mechanisms to favor corporate responsibility. Then there could be promotion of stakeholder dialogue. So at the international level, CSR with reference to soft policies for in the government, with reference to soft policies at the international level, you could have incentives for adopting international corporate responsibility standards. You could promote corporate responsibility good practice, labor standards, human rights, anti-corruption, etc. At the level of with reference to convergence and transparency, the government could promote standardization across corporate responsibility management models, standards, reports, indicators, and auditing systems. Government could promote fair trade labeling systems, could encourage standardization of SRI analysis, could promote inclusion of the international corporate responsibility agreements in codes of conduct. Then at the as far as evaluation and accountability is concerned, the government could introduce accountability and auditing mechanisms, could talk about triple bottom line reporting initiatives, could introduce social and environmental labeling. Then as far as tax and funding systems are concerned, the government could include tax incentives for corporate responsibility, employment creation, that would include employment creation, gender balance, work personal life balance, environmental initiatives, etc. The government could introduce funding streams for corporate responsibility, which means volunteering, social projects, etc. Government could promote SRI through fiscal mechanisms. As far as legislation is concerned, soft policies for legislation are concerned, transparency, government could enhance or could encourage transparency regarding socially responsible investment. That could be pension, that could include pension and investment funds, could oblige companies to produce sustainability reports, could put in regulations regarding public contracts and selection processes, and could have environmental legislations. Now, as far as the hard policies are concerned, the government could adapt international agreements to national standards. As far as the sector specific issues are concerned, in terms of specifically for small and medium enterprises, the government could promote and incentivize good corporate responsibility practice in SMEs, small and medium enterprises. SMEs refers to small and medium enterprises. Government could raise awareness of the impact of operations, could promote the exchange of good practice and business cases for corporate responsibility in SMEs, could include public campaigns or could encourage public campaigns directed at SMEs, could encourage cooperation between large companies and SMEs. And that is all we have time for in this lecture. We will continue this discussion in the next class regarding how CSR government contributes to the CSR activities. So thank you very much for listening.